Snipers, you have to see what's happening to the Bitcoin price today as we are breaking out of the symmetrical triangle exactly like we talked about yesterday. After identifying this inverse head and shoulder pattern, I want to talk about what the targets are for Bitcoin, because if we take the schematics of this symmetrical triangle and we were to look at what the potential target could be, at this point we do have a potential upside target of right around the $65,000 to $66,000 level. And then when we look at what's happening to Ethereum, notice how we're seeing strength above 1760, and now we are testing a major resistance level to come back into this channel potentially. I want to talk about if Ethereum is going to be able to break through this resistance and what the potential targets are going to be. And then we have to address the big elephant in the room, the CME gap that has been left behind at 54,450. Is Bitcoin going to come down to fill this CME gap? That is a question we have to have on the table. I'm here to be your umpire today. You guys are watching the Snipers channel. My name is Naeem Al-Obeidi. If you appreciate this content, remember to like this video. When we look at what's happening to Bitcoin, if we look at the volume that's coming in, it is very good volume. In my opinion, this is the exact type of volume that we want to start to see if we want to assume further upside targets for Bitcoin. You can see, just like we talked about yesterday, as soon as we got above the 4-hour Ichimoku cloud, we saw massive buy pressure come in, and that took us beyond this major resistance from this symmetrical triangle. And now we are above the previous weekly open, and we have opened the week above the current weekly open, which is a very positive thing. However, I do want to address what's happening to the S&P 500 later in this video, because we'll talk about the S&P 500 as it is below the weekly open. But for now, we have to keep in mind that the S&P 500 closed last week over and above the previous weekly open. And so at this point, Bitcoin, if it were to follow the schematics, it would continue to see upside. And so right now we do have that potential target based on the symmetrical triangle of around that $65,000 to $66,000 level. But we also have to keep in mind we do have the potential inverse head and shoulder target as well, which would be a shorter term target, and that would take us right around that $63,000 level. And so those are really the major areas that we could look for when it comes to a target, now that we've broken out and have closed 4-hour and hourly candles above the previous weekly open. And what looks like a duck and what talks like a duck and what walks like a duck is usually a duck 8 out of 10 times. However, there are those 2 times that the rug gets pulled on us and it isn't actually a duck. And so we have to keep in mind, I'm here to be your umpire. The schematics are very simple. We have a breakout target of 63,000 to around 66,000. However, if we get the rug pulled on us, if this is the 2 out of 8, the 2 out of 10 scenarios where the rug gets pulled on us, we have to keep in mind what the downside pressure could look like. And the first major support level at this point is going to be the previous weekly open at 57,300. If we start to close any hourly or 4-hour candles below this level, we have to keep in mind there is a Bitcoin CME gap at 54,450. And if we come to see this get filled, because we haven't had many CME gaps during this consolidation, we've had a lot from the breakout from 20,000, but we haven't had many during the recent consolidation. So if Bitcoin comes down to fill this CME gap, we have to keep in mind, first and foremost, we have 57,300 as the first major support level. And if that breaks, then we could come down to test the weekly open. And at 55,900, if Bitcoin starts to close any hourly candles below this level, that's when I would take caution, because at that point, there's a high chance we come down to fill the CME gap at 54,450, and it could potentially keep us above this support level. However, if this were to play out to the downside, the first level to watch is going to be the weekly open, because at that point, when we come to fill the CME gap, that could start showing signs of weakness, because once we get to 54,450, we have a huge gap down to potentially 49,700. And so we really want to hold the CME gap if we start to come and test that to the downside. But for now, to the upside, I believe if we get above 58,350, this is on the weekly chart. If you see a candle high, which is a very important level, you can see here on the week of February 22nd, the candle high here, 57,500. the candle high on the week prior to that on February 15th, 58,350. And so if Bitcoin is able to get above 58,350 at this level, that means that it opens us back up into price discovery. And that's where we could potentially see the upside scenario to 63,000 to 66,000 US dollars. And so the key levels to watch here, 58,350. If we're able to get above that 4-hour hourly candles, we have a target 63,000 to 66,000. And then the confirmation, if we get the rug pulled on us, and if this isn't a duck, remember, that's not up to me. I'm just here to be your umpire. I'm here to give you guys what the chart is telling us and to explain that to you. And so if we get the rug pulled on us, the weekly open, in my opinion, is going to be the major level to watch at 55,700. And the final draw would be the CME gap. If we don't get enough volume there, then that opens the door to 49,700, because at this point, these support levels are a little bit more insignificant for me because we've already tested them so many times. We've broken the support levels, we've tested them as resistance, we've seen vibration. So I wouldn't even mind just even removing this from the chart. However, I will do that if we start to see one of these scenarios play out. But sooner or later, these support levels are not going to matter anymore. And I think the CME gap at 54,450 is more of a crucial level if we were to assume downside targets. Closing below that would be a very negative thing. So we don't know. Turnaround Tuesday potentially could come tomorrow. So we have to keep in mind that the traditional markets do matter. And I do want to cover what's happening to traditional markets, but I do want to talk about Ethereum really quick because we are seeing some strength here. If Ethereum starts to get above that 1,850 level, that is going to be around where this major resistance is currently sitting. I believe we could see a break to 1981. That's for the first upside target when it comes to Ethereum's price action. Of course, we had this beautiful inverse head and shoulder also play out that we talked about yesterday. We are above the weekly open. If we start to come down, 1760 at this point is the major support for me. If we come below that, we could expect more downside. And so when we look at the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart, which really is what matters, because you can see now that we're seeing price action with the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart, we're starting to see price action with the Ethereum to US dollar chart. You can see we're above the monthly open, but on the daily chart, we still have to treat this as what it is. And currently we are below all 3 daily moving averages with a potential death cross about to happen with the 50-day moving average almost coming down to cross below the 200-day moving average. And so realize that at this point, if we continue to close candles above the monthly open, I believe we've closed several hourly candles so far, 1 hourly candle so far above the monthly open. If we continue to close hourly and 4-hour candles above the monthly open, we could potentially have a breakout scenario for Ethereum. We know the fundamentals are there with Ethereum becoming deflationary, with EIP 1559 coming this year. And so if we continue to stay above the weekly and monthly open, I think this is a very big opportunity for Ethereum. And I think if we see this breakout, then that 1980 target is going to be a piece of cake for Ethereum to the upside. And I really believe if we get to 1980 to test that, we're going to see new all-time highs for Ethereum beyond 2000 because we're so close to the big even. It's a psychological number. And so really the key level to watch is going to be around that 1850. Of course, we want to watch Bitcoin to assume the major moves, but of course the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart could give us a lot of hints as to which asset would be better to hold during this uptrend. And so if we look at the daily chart, the 200-day moving average is still sitting there as a resistance around 32,250 Satoshis. And on the weekly, we want to get above this 20-week moving average at some point. Once again, the first confirmations are going to come very soon if we start closing above the monthly open, which is right where we're at right now, 31,400 Satoshis. But really, we want to get above the 20-week moving average to confirm a reversal around 32,900 Satoshis. And so that's something to keep in mind with the Ethereum chart. And then we're seeing a lot of strength with others' dominance. We're above 12% dominance, which is really good. Bitcoin dominance is starting to come down. And so we'll continue to monitor this, but not much price action. I do want to address what's happening here to the DXY because this is extremely important if we want to predict whether or not we're going to see a turnaround Tuesday tomorrow, or if we're going to see any further downside this week. We are testing this major resistance level. Right now, what I'm watching for is, are we going to break through this resistance for the DXY and move up to 93.82? Because if we look at the last time the DXY was in a prolonged bear trend and came above the 200-day moving average, which just happened, you can see we did see a lot of price action to the upside when that happened. And so we have to keep in mind, if the DXY moves up, that could be the first confirmation that we could have a turnaround Tuesday in traditional markets and in Bitcoin. But for now, what I'm expecting is we will see a little bit of some resistance at this level because, of course, it is a channel resistance. And then if we break below 92.62, then I think that would buy us some time, as I talked about yesterday. And then maybe further, down the road, we could potentially see further highs. But who knows? If we start to see strength, we have to keep in mind what's happening to the DXY and how it's affecting the S&P 500. So far, the S&P 500 is opening the week below the weekly open and maintaining price action below that level, as you can see. But keep in mind that the S&P 500 already saw a major follow-through candle on Friday, and Bitcoin, and you can see how far above the previous weekly open the S&P 500 already is. And when it comes to Bitcoin, which is a closely correlated asset, we've yet to see that type of push. So that's also on the table as a market structural puzzle piece that I want you guys to keep in mind. But for the S&P 500, we do want to watch this. If we start to get above the weekly open, that could be more positive confirmations for more upside. But if we continue to see weakness here, then we have to keep in mind turnaround Tuesday tomorrow. And so it's going to be a very important video tomorrow. I hope you guys enjoyed this analysis. If you did, remember to like this video. If you want to win one of my favorite books on investing, all you have to do is comment below and share this video, and I will choose a winner on my video tomorrow to win Principles by Ray Dalio. I'll go ahead and pick a winner from our video yesterday. Let's see. Eric Swells says, Ichimoku Cloud, swoon. You want a book? Go ahead and send me a message on Instagram. The link is in the description below. And I hope you guys got some value from this analysis. I'm here to be your umpire, and this is a very exciting time. And I will see some of you guys in our Discord. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. And by the way, we did take a trade on this Bitcoin retest of the weekly open, just like I talked about in our video yesterday. When we tested this previous weekly open for the first time, we did take a long trade with Bitcoin here at 57,365, which we know is right at the previous weekly open. And so we are in a long trade with our first target of around 60,000. That is a day trade that I took, but because the DXY and the S&P 500 were acting a little weird, I did label it as a very high risk trade for now. However, in my opinion, once again, if we get above 58,350, that could be the first sign of further upside. And so let's continue to watch the price action. And with that, I hope you enjoyed this video. Snipers out.